Good evening, good afternoon, good morning. Whatever time you're watching the Student Athlete Playbook video conversation, we say thank you. I am Barry Brown, author of the Amazon bestseller, The Student Athlete Playbook. I'm a member of Youth Education and Sports, the nonprofit organization that meets student athletes where they are and help them to develop into academic and athletic level scholarship recipients. And you know what we do with the Student Athlete Playbook video conversation. We interview the best coaches, the best parents, the best student athletes, the best youth service providers that are out here working with young people and helping them to develop into productive and outstanding adults. And tonight is no other. I have my brother, my friend, my former college teammate, shout out to Presbyterian College. And now I can say I have a friend, a brother, who is a Hall of Famer. Now, you know everybody don't get into the Hall of Fame easily. So you know he accomplished something great. And we're going to talk about that tonight. So, hey, welcome to the Student Athlete Playbook video conversation. My brother, my friend, Coach Duane Hagstrom. How you doing, my brother?
I'm doing really good, man. Thank you so much for having me on here. I appreciate it. I'm a little humbled and overwhelmed that you would put me on here, but that's pretty cool, man. It's good to see you, good to talk to you, good to catch up. Been a long time.
Man, it's definitely been a long time, man. You know, we tried this a few years ago. We couldn't get our schedules straight, but I mean, you a busy man. You know, you out there lifting yourself, picking up cars and, you know, breaking records and, you know, you're a busy man. However, I thank you for taking the time to speak with me tonight and have a great conversation about who you are as a man, how you developed as a Hall of Fame coach, which is amazing to me. Because every time I think about you, every time I talk with you, you know, I go back to our days when we were 18 years old, 19 years old, freshmen at Presbyterian College up in Clinton, South Carolina, man. And it's an honor to know you and to say I knew you before you became Coach Duane Hagstrom that everybody down there in Florida knows now. So, man, let's get started, man.
Just don't tell any stories from back then, though.
No, we're not. This is a family show, Duane. This is a family show. Exactly. It's a family show. So, yes, sir. We want people to learn more about the Coach Duane Hagstrom side than the D-Hag side. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, yes, sir. We're going to have a great time with this conversation, man. Now, Coach, where are you from? And how did you start playing sports when you were a child? Like what kind of environment did you grow up in? I mean, you definitely tell us specifically where you're from, but what kind of environment did you grow up in that you wanted to play sports as a child?
So I'm from a little town in north central Florida called Pearson, Florida. And probably most of your viewers, if you have people up in the Atlanta area, will know that from being the hometown of Chipper Jones. You know, as you well know, we went to high school together, grew up together, stuff like that. But I actually got started playing at a very young age. My grandfather was a college baseball player. He was a pitcher for Florida Southern College in South Florida, and actually got drafted into the major leagues. He was a pretty good baseball player, but he never ended up playing. So at a young age, my grandfather raised me from a young age. So at 4 years old, I started playing baseball. And that was my passion for many, many years until I was about 14, maybe. And then when I got into high school, you know, at 14, I got approached by football coaches and asked me to come out for football. I never played football a day in my life other than like we played some rec, you know, like the rec league flag football when you're like 7, 8, 9 years old, you know, in little teams or whatever. So I went out for football and fell in love with it. Like I really fell in love with it. But I think more importantly, during that time, I really fell in love with the weight room. That was where my passion for what I do now really kind of sparked at that point. And then continued to play baseball through high school, and probably should have gone the baseball route more so than the football route. Now, being hindsight being 2020, but
Right.
football was a lot more cool and macho back then. So, went to PC, got a scholarship, and played football there for a little while. And then later in life, I actually did make it into the Arena Football League. When Daytona had a team for a couple years, I made that team and tore my Achilles. So that kind of put me out of commission, and I was in my early 30s when I did that. I was just trying to hang on to something,
Right.
So
I understand.
That's kind of how I got my start in sports. I can attribute most of it to my grandfather. He was my first coach. He was the one that, pushed me to be a good athlete and do things the right way and hold myself accountable, and learned a lot of lessons from him.
Wow. Definitely, I want to talk more about your grandfather, because I remember meeting your grandfather. I remember the influence of you talking about him and the influence he had on your life. So that's a great tribute to him being your first coach. And the young people that are watching this, we always try to find out where our guests come from and where they get their inspiration from, because as you continue to grow up, you're going to develop your why and why you do things. And one of the first things I know for sure is representing your family. That's big for a lot of people. And Coach Hagstrom, you definitely have done that, representing your family very well, specifically your grandfather, with him helping you develop into who you become in life, man. That's awesome, brother. That's awesome. So now, you were in high school. You were a weightlifter. You started weightlifting, you said about the 9th grade, 9th, 10th grade. That's when you started catching your stride, Coach?
Yeah. Weightlifting in high school has been around in the state of Florida since 1973. And wow. I had a lot of friends that went to other schools surrounding me, and all of them had weightlifting teams, but my school didn't have one. So I never got an opportunity in the high school setting to compete. So I pretty much, I lived in the weight room. It was crazy because after my freshman year, I played JV for like the first 3 or 4 games, and then the coaches pulled me up to varsity and started in the varsity as a 9th grader. And the coaches saw how dedicated I was to being in the weight room. Well, back then, nobody lifted. Nope. It was just like, they would open the weight room and, if you want to come, and it would always be me and like 1 or 2 other guys. Well, my sophomore year, my coach got so tired of me bothering him to go open the weight room that he gave me a key.
Wow.
Well, I had a key. I had a key to the weight room when I was 15 years old, 10th grade, and I used to come up to that school by myself when school was out of session, and I lived in there. That's that was where it kind of like that real passion for lifting really kind of sparked and started, was there.
Wow. 15 years old, a key to the weight room. What did your family say? Like, Duane, you going to the weight room today, or what? Or you just go and be gone for hours?
Yeah, I just say, hey, Grandpa, I'm going up to the school to lift, and he'd be like, all right, be careful, and see you when you get home.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
That was something you can't get away with these days, as a coach, especially.
Yeah, the liability these days would be quite different, and the trust level would be kind of different these days. I'll be interested to know. And if you're watching the Student Athlete Playbook video conversation right now, you have a question for Coach Hagstrom or myself, please, put your comment, type your comment in. It'll pop up, and hey, we'll answer. I think one just popped up right now, Coach. Let's check it out and see who's They say hasn't stopped. Yeah, Kenny Rosa say they haven't stopped. Let me put that on the screen right there, Coach.
That's one of my best friends. He's actually one of my best friends, and he's one of my assistant weightlifting coaches.
That's what's up. But Kenny, I believe you, man. Coach, I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but I am gonna put you on the spot. How much can you bench press right now? Like just right now. What do you think you can bench press right now?
I just benched 315 the other day, and that's about as much as I can do right now.
Unbelievable. That's what I'm talking about, Coach. Hey, you still putting in that work, man. Hey, congratulations on that. Because right now, I mean, I'd be happy if I can put up 225 probably on the bench, man. But I can do a lot of push-ups. I can probably do about 50 push-up, coaches. That'll help me get a slot on your team right
Yeah,
now.
absolutely. Absolutely.
So now, Coach,
you got to continue to work for it, man. If you can't just let it go, because that strength goes quick.
Man, you're not lying. Yeah, I'm gonna tell you what literally changed my life as an adult, Coach, is and I wish I would have felt differently about it when we were younger, was yoga, man. I don't know if you do any yoga sessions right now or have your student athletes doing it, but yoga has changed my life, man. And you mentioned, I look, relatively the same as I did when we were younger. I attribute a lot of it to yoga, man, and meditation. So that's definitely
yoga's. I mean, I did yoga for a couple years, pretty regularly, and I absolutely loved it. But I don't suggest anybody do that Bikram yoga where you're in like the 120-degree room.
Oh yeah, that yoga, no sir.
No, I did that a few times, and I'm like, never again. They told me to bring 4 bottles of water with me. I think I drank them all in the first 5 minutes.
Exactly. Yeah, I stay away from the hot yoga. Yeah, that's a little too intense for me. I like calm, soothing yoga. That's more my style, right there. Yeah. So now, Coach, so we played together at PC. Had a lot of fun. We actually, people don't know this, but me, you, and Brad and Bird, we stayed in the same suite together there at school. So we very good friends. And man, I think about them days. I was like, man, we had it made, D. We had it made. Yeah. I'm very thankful and grateful for those times. Now, after graduating from PC, you lifted weights all through high school. Definitely, we were lifting weights in college by far. Cause that's really what, like you said, that wasn't a big thing for me. And I played in a state championship caliber program in high school, won one state title. But yeah, the weight room was never my thing until I got to college. I got to PC and I learned how to lift weights better, and it helped me perform because I was as you mentioned before we got online tonight, I was an undersized defensive back, so I need to have some strength. And thank goodness PC put us in the weight room so I could develop in the weight room, get some more, not much more size per se, but have more muscle. And I was able to play, 4 years relatively injury free. Other than that knee injury when y'all were helping me get around for a minute. But Coach, after graduating from PC, what made you want to become a competitive weightlifter yourself, and then become a high school weightlifting coach? What was the inspiration behind that?
Well, it's kind of I don't want to say it's a long story, but it's a building story. It wasn't something that happened right away. When I graduated from PC in 1996, I never went home. I moved the day I graduated. I moved to Jacksonville by myself, and got my first teaching job within a month. Got hired at Sandalwood High School, and when I was interviewing for the teaching position, I really wanted to coach football. That was my passion. Like, we played football. That was my life for the last 8-9 years, and I really wanted to coach football. And so I interviewed for the job, and he told me, he's like, I don't have any football openings. He's like, I'm not saying that there won't be one come up, but he goes, right now I have no football openings. And I really like the school. I really like the administration. The principal was super nice. He was a great guy. So we were getting ready to finish off the interview, and he goes, hey, what would you think about being a head coach? And I said, a head coach of what?
Exactly.
He said, we're looking for a head cross-country coach.
Wow.
And I said, I don't know anything about running. And he said, well, he said, take a couple days to think about it. So I went home, I, prayed on it, thought about it, whatever. And I was like, you know what? I'm 22 years old, and my first teaching job, how cool would it be to be a head coach of anything at 22? And I thought of it more like, this is going to get my foot in the door when they see, what I bring to the table. And so I did that. I took that cross country job, and man, what an eye opener it was. Well, being a 290-pound defensive lineman in college, I didn't like running very much. So, and this was before 1996, the internet really wasn't a thing. I mean, it was around, but we didn't know much about it. So it wasn't like I could go online and Google how to coach running. So I went to Barnes and Noble or a bookstore, and I bought every book that I could find on long distance running. And I read them all from cover to cover, took notes, and it was pretty interesting because in running, especially cross country, you have to be able to get your mile splits on your runners. So I'd send them out on a 5-mile run, and I'd have to be at every mile mark. Well, they're running on trails. I can't drive my car. So I went and bought a mountain bike.
That's
right. And I would ride in front of them. Now, keep in mind, I was 290 pounds. So in about 2 months, I lost like 40 pounds, 50 pounds from riding this bike every day. And then I started running because I got to a weight where I could comfortably run. And I was running all the time. I was running probably 5-6 miles a day. And it became, I engulfed my life with it because that's what I was wanting to be good at. And I had a little bit of success. Had a couple kids that, qualified for the state championship, things like that. But then a couple years later, and it paid off, what my thoughts about putting my foot in the door paid off. The principal knew, he knew me, we talked, we were buddies, and he knew how much I enjoyed working out and how much I was still muscular, big guy. And he came up to me, and Duval County had just started a weightlifting program for all the high school girls. So he approached me about it. He's like, what would you think about coaching a girls weightlifting team? And I jumped all over it. I was like, heck yeah.
Exactly.
So that was about 90, maybe 98, 99. I'd been at the school for about 2 or 3 years, and coached this girls weightlifting team. We went undefeated for 3 years in a row, won 3 county championships, had, a lot of, but this was before girls weightlifting was a sanctioned sport in Florida. Back then, boys were the only sanctioned sport. So this was more like just a, I guess a club team kind of thing. So, in order for me to do what I really wanted to do, I really wanted to get into coaching boys. So my grandma lived in Palm Coast, and she'd been bugging me for years to move to Palm Coast. So I went down, applied for a job in Palm Coast, and I hit the lotto. I got hired the same day. They hired me as an assistant. They hired me as an assistant football coach, and they hired me as the head boys weightlifting coach.
Wow.
And that's kind of where in one day. Yeah. I filled out my paperwork at the county office on one day. The very next day, I got called in for an interview. That day, came, interviewed, got hired, and got 3 jobs at one time.
Wow. And this is at the school that you're currently at right now?
Yep. This is the school that I'm currently at. Yep.
Wow. Well,
yep.
Flagler Palm Coast High School.
Yep, Flagler Palm Coast High School, and that's from that point. That's where, and from there, it's just that's where history was made. I mean, that's where all my, the 95% of my success as a coach has come from Flagler Palm Coast High School, starting that program. Well, I didn't start the program, but made it into the program that it is today. Because before I got there, it wasn't taken very seriously. It was more as a supplement to football kind of thing.
Correct. Wow. Coach, now let me tell you something. I heard a lot of stuff when you just explained that. But here go 3 takeaways that I got from that. You talked about praying. And that's a beautiful thing because you don't hear a lot of people talking about that these days. I know in our conversations with our friends and family, you're going to hear the word praying. You're going to see the action praying by far. So I love that you mentioned that. I also heard you. What I also took away from that was the fact that you didn't step away from a challenge. Like that athletic director, that principal challenged you to take on a sport you never participated in. You knew nothing about it. You told the truth and told them, I don't know anything about it. And here's the third thing, Coach, that I love that we try to tell our young people. Go learn. Be a lifelong learner. And you said you went to Barnes and Noble or the library or bookstore, and you went and got every book so you can learn about cross country.
Yep.
Man, and then you put in the work, Coach. You said you went undefeated with people that probably never lifted weights before in their life. And won 30 championships.
Oh yeah, 30. We were 30-0 in 3 years.
That's unbelievable, Coach. So work at prayer, number one, wasn't afraid of a challenge. Went and learned, put the work in to learn what to do as a cross country coach, and that turned in your opportunity to start coaching weightlifting with girls, with young ladies, and then develop a championship program there, and then went on to Flagler, and now you've developed into this Hall of Fame coach. That's a great story, Coach. We got to look at making a movie out of that, Coach. I love it. I love it.
Well, you've known me a long time, and you know I never back down from a challenge.
You never, ever. So hearing you talk about it, I just like to take those nuggets out of it, because that was something that at 22 years old, how was that? Well, let me ask you this. I know you prayed on it, but how scary was that, Coach? Because I know a lot of young people today do not, and a lot of young people are going to see this video. Was that scary for you? How scary was that for you at 22?
It was terrifying. It was terrifying because up to that point, I had very little to no coaching experience. I think the saving grace was the fact that I was so young, and I was only 4 to 5 years older than some of the kids on the team, so I was able to connect with them on a personal level more so because I was one of them. But yeah, it was terrifying, man. We used to go to meets my first year, and they have coaches meetings and stuff, and there's coaches that have been coaching for 25, 30 years that some of them are in the Hall of Fame, and their reputation precedes them, and it's like, I'm over here 22 years old, I know nothing, and I have no experience. It's intimidating.
Wow. Man. Well, man, because that part I did not know. You never went back home. I did not know you did. I had no idea that you did that. Here's what's funny about that, though, Coach. I talk about a plan when we're creating that plan for our student athletes that come into our program, and we talk about that hey, if you have a terrible home life, if something going on in your community that's not good, and you're trying to get away. But one of the best things you can do is prepare yourself academically, prepare yourself athletically, so that when you leave high school, you get a scholarship, partial scholarship, financial aid, or you have to get a student loan, whatever you have to do to get out of there, right? But then when you're in school and you learn, you get your degree, you network, you market yourself, you prepare to graduate from college, and like you did, you went right into a job right out of college.
Yeah.
You never have to go back home if you're handling your business. And as the young people say right now, I'm standing on business. I'm standing on business. Hey, stand on your business and get your work done so that you can graduate. And if you choose not to go back home, you don't have to go back home because you're starting to generate an income for yourself.
Absolutely.
That's a great story, Coach.
And just to set the record straight, I had a great home environment. It wasn't because I didn't want to go home. I was very blessed, still blessed to this day, that I had a very supportive and, good family that would have taken me back and probably let me live with them as long as I want. But I was just ready to go. I was ready. I said, it's time, because I had a feeling that if I went home, I may not leave.
Right. And I'm glad you said that, Coach, that, your circumstances wasn't what I just described. Your circumstances was you had a home to go back to, and you was welcome back home. And you chose to take on the challenge of going out there and spreading your wings and flapping and taking off, man. Hey, brother, I salute you, bro. Like, that's big. That's big. Because, see, I didn't do that. I did come back home first before I branched out. So that I salute you, brother. That's beautiful, man. That's beautiful. So now, Coach, you've had a lot of success, man. Hall of Fame. So we're talking about Hall of Fame, Strength and Power Hall of Fame as a competitor. And now, most recently, Florida Athletic Coaches Association Hall of Fame. So now, before we get to how you feel about that, let me ask you this. You shared some of your story with us. When did you find out? When did you realize that Duane Hagstrom was one heck of a weightlifting coach? Like, when did you realize that, Coach?
Well, I mean, just in general terms, like when I realized that I was not a bad coach was just in probably that first experience, having a little bit of success. And, I never in a million years thought that I'd have any success with a sport that I didn't know anything about. So I knew I had some ability. I mean, I was a terrible coach. I mean, all young coaches don't know anything. And, you make a lot of mistakes. And, I was very fortunate to have some good athletes and good support, good families. And, cross country is a little different, but then I think really the point where I knew that I was, okay, now I got something here. Like I'm getting through these kids and we're having some success was 2007. So up until 2007, so I started at Flagler in 2002. So for the first 5 years I was there coaching weightlifting, I had never qualified more than 1 or 2 kids to the state championships ever. And in 2007, we qualified 8.
Wow.
And that year, and it was just, I mean, those kids were amazing. That group of kids was still to this day, I tell my current teams, even my state championship team, I was like, that team would have whipped your tails. Like that, it was just that good of a group. But in 2007, we took 8 people to the state championship, and we ended up finishing 4th in the state when we were only 1 point away from 2nd, and we were 7 points away from 1st. And I think that was really the turning point. And then the very next year, I had my first ever state champion.
Wow. Yeah, I can see that as a turning point. I can see that as, we have arrived on the scene. Yeah, 8. Yeah. What do other schools take, Coach? Like how many, like on average, do you see schools bring to that state tournament?
I mean, you got your powerhouse schools always that take a ton. I mean, I've got friends of mine, and I've got a lot of friends and colleagues in the sport now that I've done it so long. And I mean, I've got some friends that yearly they're taking 15 to 20.
Wow.
But that's not the norm.
Okay.
I've probably been averaging about 6 to 8 a year for both girls and boys for the past probably 10 or 12 years, but that's even on the high side. Most people, most teams have 1 kid, they'll have 2, but I mean, obviously if you want to win a state championship, you got to have numbers.
Absolutely. Pick up those points, right? It's picking up.
Oh yeah, points. Absolutely.
Wow. That's beautiful, man. That's beautiful. So now, Coach, you mentioned some things. We talked about prayer. We talked about some other things. What else would you mention? So when people say, "Man, I want to grow. One day I want to be like Coach Hagstrom." So I'm sure you're getting that sometimes now at the level you are now. What did it take? Like, what did you do, or what do you believe you did to develop into the Coach Hagstrom today?
Oh, I know exactly what I did.
Yes.
I was never satisfied with myself. I never stopped learning. I mean, and I'll talk about this later on. Still to this day, I mean, I got a stack full of books on my table right next to my chair that I probably read through every day about, I always say I don't own an original idea. I've stole everything I do in the sport for training. I've stole from somebody else. But I think that's where I think people they kind of get in a rut and they think that, oh, I got a little bit of success, I must be doing something right. And they never stop trying to grow. And still to this day, I call friends. I go watch other teams and other coaches, and it's a never-ending learning process, I think. And anybody that claims they know everything, they're probably stuck in that somewhere.
Wow, I love it, Coach. Still hungry.
Very.
Still hungry.
Very.
Never satisfied. Always attempting to learn and grow. And borrowing ideas from everywhere. Hey, man, those are great things. Young people, parents, other coaches that are watching Coach Hagstrom, watching this video. He is a Hall of Fame as a Hall of Famer as a competitor, a Hall of Famer as a coach. Still hungry to this day. After what, 28 years, Coach?
28 years.
Wow. Never satisfied. Always attempting to learn and grow, and still looking for more ideas so he can get better. Yeah, that's Hall of Fame, Coach. That's Hall of Fame, my brother. Straight up and down. That's Hall of Fame in my book every single day. So now let me ask you this, Coach. How did it feel, man, when you got that first call going into the Florida Strength and Power Hall of Fame? How did that feel? First, I'm gonna go there first. How did that feel?
Honestly, it was a bit surprising because, I mean, I don't consider myself to be an elite level weightlifter, power lifter, any of that. I mean, I didn't start competing until I was in my mid 30s. So I had a very short career in terms of competing. But I did have quite a bit of success. Obviously it was an amazing thing to be considered, to be put in the same category with some of the athletes that are in that Hall of Fame, and to see my name listed there with those people is overwhelming, to say the least, because it's like, man, do I really belong here?
Right.
Yeah.
You do, though, Coach. You do. Absolutely. You do. And so when you start talking about doing it at that age, I had a conversation with somebody today, and we talked about the fact that Colonel Sanders, Kentucky Fried Chicken, that did not blow up for him. It did not pop off. It did not become successful for him until he was 65 years old.
Wow.
So when you start comparing stuff like that and looking at that kind of stuff, then my simple statement to anybody is, it's never too late. And age is literally just a number.
Yeah.
So, man, that's beautiful, Coach. 30 years old, boom. So now, before we go to the next Hall of Fame that you've been inducted into, let's look at some comments here, because you got some comments here, Coach. Let's see. We already heard from Kenny Rosa. Kenny Rosa said something again. He says, this is what Kenny said about when we were talking about you were lifting weight. He said he's lying. He made 315 look like it was probably a dummy weight. So shout out to Kenny. Let's see here. You got Mickey. Got it. Yeah, now I got some. See, now, Mickey, let me say something, Mickey. We do have some embarrassing stories, but this is a family show. So I can't mention this, but let me give you a little tidbit. I don't even know if Duane remembers this. Coach actually remembers this. But Coach, do you remember that you, Brad, Bird, and I went over to Spartanburg to a party over at Spartanburg Methodist, and you and Brad left us? Do you remember that?
Well, put some context on that, Barry. I mean, listen, I don't see color. I love everybody of every color, but when you're the only two white dudes, you're the only two white dudes, like really, really white dudes in a party, that it's a little uncomfortable. I think that's what pushed us away, because it was like, man, this is just not a comfortable environment.
So, Mickey, that's your embarrassing story for the night right there. That's your embarrassing story. Yeah, we got Bird and I got left in Spartanburg, South Carolina. So we had to find a ride back to campus the next day. But it was all good. We had a great time over there. So great question, great question there. And then let's see, let's finish here. Kenny Rosa said again, now they can't. Oh yeah, no, Flagler can't. Oh no, it's hard to get rid of a Hall of Fame coach, Kenny. So I agree with you 100%. Yeah, I agree with you. Yes, sir. And if they do get rid of him, then that means I might have to just drive down there and figure out what's going on. So yes, I think he's
maybe you get me a job up there in Georgia as a strength and conditioning coach.
Yeah, it's now there's definitely some programs that need it. That's for sure. And you're right about that, brother.
That's where the money is, man.
Man, yeah, Georgia's a hotbed, man. But I mean, Florida. Well, let's talk about that for a second, Coach. When you start talking about high school football, I don't know a lot about high school weightlifting myself personally, but knowing Bird, I know Bird was a state champion lifter back in high school before he got the PC. So when we start talking about weightlifting across the nation, and we start looking at the states that produce the top high school football players, well, Florida's at the top of the list by far. Then you have Georgia over here on the East Coast. Then I think Pennsylvania has a good one. But traditionally, you start talking about Texas, and then you shoot out there to California and, of course, Ohio, hotbeds for athletes. So, yeah, I'm putting Florida up there with anybody, Coach. I don't know if you want to come to Georgia. I think we might be third or something on that list, third or fourth on that list there. But I know Texas, California, Florida. But, hey, I'm going to have to put Florida up there with anybody, man. Every time you see somebody in the NFL, they're talking about they from Florida.
So, how many times in college did we all have that argument about who had the best players?
Man, looked like every day almost.
Whoever was South Carolina boys claimed they would whip us, and Georgia boys claimed they would whip us, and Florida boys claimed they whip everybody.
Yeah. No, sir. No, sir. Let me put it like this, Coach. When you start talking about that, if you make that all-state team or you get chosen to play in that Florida-Georgia all-star game, then you know you're something special. And I need to go back and look at that Georgia-Florida list, because I know we had two players. Let me see, 1, 2, 3. It might be 3 players from my high school that played in that game. I know 2 did for sure. And I think it was 3. I'd have to go back and check. But one of my best friends, Andre Hastings, you remember Andre Hastings? He played in the Georgia-Florida All-Star game, and then also before we even got to high school, we had a running back by the name of Todd Smith. He played in that Georgia-Florida All-Star game. So yeah, I put Georgia-Florida up against anybody in the country, man. That's real talk, definitely. Now Kenny has asked another question, Coach. So please speak on this. How important is nutrition for growth?
It's the most important thing. It's definitely the most important thing. I mean, I tell my kids all the time that what we do in the weight room is only about 25% of what's important. The other 75% is nutrition, sleep, those kinds of things. Like you can't grow without that. So I would say nutrition is probably the number one thing for strength and growing. Absolutely.
Awesome question, Kenny. Thank you, sir. Awesome question for us this evening. Great answer. Yeah, very important in all walks of life. No matter if you're a student athlete or not, nutrition is the number one thing. Because guess what? If you are not healthy, you're not going to do anything. It's very hard to do anything when you're sick.
Yeah,
that's for sure. So health is the number one thing we all have to have in our lives to perform at any job, any particular sport. We got to have it. Now, Coach, and thank you, Kenny, for that question. Great question. Now, let's talk about health a little bit more, but we're going to talk about it in a different way. How important is it for student athletes to have and display good character? The Student Athlete Achievement Program is all about good character. So how important is that at school, displaying it at school, coach, at home, and in the community? How important is having good character?
Well, like I said earlier, my first several years coaching, I don't consider myself to be that great of a coach, and my focus was not on the right thing at that point. More, when I was a young coach, it was all about wins and losses and, how good we were and things like that. But it's funny you said that, because that exact thing that you just talked about, good character and being part of the community and that kind of thing, that's become the primary focus of my program. The primary focus of my coaching probably for the last 15 years. I don't get near as many athletes as I used to, because I'm known as the guy that holds people accountable. And I preach accountability. Like, I don't, I tell my kids, like, we have a hierarchy in our program, and the hierarchy is family first, student second, weightlifter third. And if you can't take care of those first two, then the privilege of being a weightlifter is not going to happen. So, while championships are still important for me, my main goal is creating responsible, adults that go out and are successful in the real world. I mean, I get, my assistant coaches, they light up like Christmas trees every time we go anywhere, because, they're constantly getting praise from parents and other coaches about how awesome our kids are, and how, they pay such attention to detail. They're so kind. They're the first ones willing to, jump in and help out when things need to be done. And, that to me what's important, because at the end of the day, nobody's going to remember how much weight you lifted.
That's it. Hey, coach, the way you stated that, the way you presented that is beautiful, and it shows why you are a Hall of Fame coach, man. Because you have the right pieces in place. You have the right order of things, and that's real. I'm real big on order and organization of thoughts, mind, and spirit. And what you just talked about is critical to anybody's success, when you have the right things in order and you doing first things first. So I love that, man. And that statement alone, that segment right there, is why you're a Hall of Fame coach, bro. Right there. That's beautiful, bro. That's beautiful. Now I want to ask you about this. This is the hottest thing in sports right now. The hottest thing in sports, especially in college, but now it's trickled down to the high school level. And I'm real interested to see where this goes here in the future. I get a lot of phone calls about this right now. You student athletes are able to seek and profit from name, image, and likeness deals. Now, we just talked about Florida being a hotbed for student athletes by far. What are your thoughts on the impact of NIL deals and where they're going at the high school level and the college level here in the future? What's your thoughts on NIL, coach?
Well, I think we've already seen what it's doing to college sports. I mean, the kids don't stay around anywhere anymore. It's a transfer portal is like, they're going from one school to the next, and they're going where the opportunities are. So if they know they can get more money from NIL, they're going to transfer out, or, when things don't go their way, they're going to transfer out. So, I mean, I'm all for it. If you can get the money, get the money at the college level. You know what I mean? I mean, realistically, how many of these kids are going to play in the NFL anyway, or Major League Baseball? So make it while you can. But at the high school level, and this is just my opinion. It may not be right, but it's my opinion. I don't think it's going to have that big of an impact in high school. I mean, because if you think about it, the only schools that are going to be able to offer those kinds of NIL deals with those kind of connections are the schools that have already used their power and prowess anyway over the years to get kids to come to their schools, because they have $1 million endowments, and they have boosters that are, pouring money into the program.
Right.
So again, even with the high school athlete, man, if you can make the money, go make the money. But honestly, in my opinion, I don't think it's going to have that big of an impact on. I mean, I can't see anybody. I don't see a kid from my school getting an NIL deal.
Right.
Right.
It's gonna be tough.
It's not going to be there. But when you start talking about the private schools, like what is that?
IMG down there. Yeah. And
IMG,
yeah.
Those places that are already packed full of, this is I think the big time private schools are going to be able to steal kids and, entice them with those kinds of things. But I think the everyday public high school, and again, I don't know, but I wouldn't think that they have those kind of connections to even use that to their advantage. I mean, it might be possible, but I don't think it's going to have that big of an impact at the high school level.
Right. Yeah. Those public schools have to have one heck of a booster club president and an actual group of parents involved to be able to compete at the level that these private schools compete at. And like you said, I think you made a good point. All across the country, the private schools, they've been doing that for years. That's nothing new for them. Getting a kid that played at a public school their 9th and 10th grade year, then they end up at one of the powerhouse private schools their junior and senior years. One of the biggest examples recently is Anthony with the Anthony Edwards, Ant-Man, up in the NBA. He went to a high school. There a high school in my where I grew up on that side of town, Southwest Atlanta, and he played only 1 year there, 9th grade, and his 10th, 11th year he was at one of the big time private schools. So yeah, it's been happening for a long time, and I agree with you. It's probably going to continue on that level, at the high school level. So yes, sir. Great insight, Coach. I
don't know how it is in other states, but I know in the state of Florida, we used to have very strict recruiting rules, and now it's an open door. Like, I mean, if a kid wants to play baseball at my school and then they want to transfer to play football at another school and then come back, they can. And there's no rules against it. As long as they can provide their own transportation, it's wide open.
Nah, see, that's amazing. Because I've never, until you mentioned that, I've never even heard of that. Wow, that's amazing. So yeah, I'm gonna have to check that out. I don't know how many states allow that either, Coach. But I know in Georgia, our Georgia High School Association, GHSA, has they definitely have been battling that transfer move. Does the kid really live in that district or not? They've been dealing with that for a long time, and I would imagine every state is dealing with that. And definitely the hotbeds, those cities, those metro areas that are hotbeds for talent. I would imagine they're going through it now. So I remember several years ago we had a public high school that actually had like five-star athletes transfer to it in 1 year, one off season. And I was like, oh, well, you already know what's going on. That's as clear as day. So you're right. It's been going on. It's going to continue to go on. Like you say, the transfer rules have changed, but now the kids do have opportunity to go play wherever they want to go to.
Make that money while you can.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, you got to make the money. I mean, you got to make what I'm asking. Parents, coaches, boosters. This is all I'm asking. Let's work on financial literacy skills as well. So when we're giving these young people, and they've earned it, and they've earned these substantial paydays, then let's make sure that they understand what to do with the money and not let them be a 20, 25-year-old flame out with no money, no skills, and now they have nowhere to go to generate an income. Let's teach them how to fish instead of just giving them a fish. How about that? Let's do that. So, get the money, but let's also teach our young people how to fish versus giving them a fish. And let's see how that works better. Because I'm definitely tired of seeing the stories and hearing the stories. And the only thing I recommend everybody do to understand what Coach and I are referring to is go watch Broke, the 30 for 30 special Broke that came out years ago, but it's still relevant to this day. The information is still relevant for this today, and I think it's going to be relevant for a very long time until we change the financial literacy issues here locally, regionally, nationally, and of course around the world. So, Coach, man, this has been awesome. I'm just so happy that you have been inducted into these two Hall of Fame. Let me make sure I say them right now. It's the Florida Strength and Power Hall of Fame as a competitor, and then the Florida Athletic Coaches Association Hall of Fame. So now, before we close out, we got some more comments, Coach. I want to make sure everybody that wants to speak to you gets a chance to do it. Let's see. Let's check these out. Let's see here. You got Kenny again. Let's see. Kenny says he's always promoting the kids to become leaders and take charge. That's one thing I love about him. Absolutely, Kenny. No doubt about it. Absolutely. Let's see here. We have let's go. Cristal Casanova. We are blessed to have Coach in our lives. I love it. So this is one of your student athletes, Coach?
This is one of the mothers of one of my athletes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's an amazing family. They actually just they're in the process of outfitting me with a brand new weight room. So
wow.
Very blessed to have them in my lives too.
Absolutely. Let's salute and clap for the Casanova family. Awesome. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. And she actually typed it. I put the wrong one up, so I'm sorry. This is Casanova, but yeah, I got it up right here. That's right. She does know how to spell, y'all. Don't get it twisted. Let me tell y'all that. We are blessed to have Coach in our lives.
She's a busy woman, so she was probably typing that in between work.
Exactly. Absolutely. But I got the right one up there for you. So yes, ma'am. So I love it. I love it. So and we got another one. Amanda, that just popped in. He is a legend. I'm privileged to work with him and learn from him. Outstanding. Now, who is Amanda, Coach? Who is Amanda? Let's make sure we shout out Amanda.
Amanda has, so in my career, I've had a lot of assistant coaches, and I've not kept many of them around very long because they're warm bodies and didn't give anything back to the program. Amanda is my first ever female assistant coach, and she's amazing. Wow. She brings a whole new aspect to our program that I can't give, and she's an asset. So that means that's special to me to hear that from her.
Hey, Coach, a legend you are indeed, sir. And thank you, Amanda, for watching first and foremost and commenting. We definitely appreciate it. Absolutely. So now, Coach, we're about to finish up, man. This has been a tremendous pleasure and an honor. What would you like to share with student athletes, parents of student athletes, and other coaches that are going to watch, that are watching this video? What would you like to say in your closing remarks here?
I mean, it's pretty simple. I think with hard work, dedication, accountability, and consistency, you can be successful at anything you do.
Say it one more time, Coach.
Hard work, dedication, accountability, and consistency. You can achieve whatever you put your mind to.
Yeah, you Hall of Fame, bro. You Hall of Fame. And you might be a mind reader too. I don't know if you saw my Facebook page, but this morning, I posted one of my quotes. Because I woke up with you on my mind. And every morning, Monday through Friday, we do a business call. So shout out to my brother Haziq Ali. Shout out to Nove. We do a business and positive affirmation call every morning. And Coach, my quote today was that consistency, being consistent and being a consistent performer and doing consistent activity in a positive way can take you to the Hall of Fame.
You
I
hit
put
it
that
on.
on my Facebook page right now, Coach.
I'll
And then,
have to go look at it because I didn't see it.
and then you just ended your feature on the Student Athlete Playbook video conversation with that comment. That's why you're Hall of Fame, brother. That's why. That's it. I mean, plain and simple, you got things in the right order. You're thinking correctly, my brother. You're putting forth the right energy out here into the world, working with these young people. And you're a tremendous, as you saw your people, you saw the people that you influence and that you impact on a daily come on here and salute you on this video conversation tonight, bro. And it speaks volumes, man. I'm touched. I mean, I'm actually getting emotional, so I got to hold back right now. But brother, that's why right there. We got two more comments. I can't let you go yet because we gotta look at these two comments right here. But let's see right here before we close out. Let's see what we have right here. I love it. Mrs. Casanova say the dream team, talking about Amanda and Coach. That's right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And then Kenny closes us out with an amen. That's what I'm talking about. Listen, this is why we do it. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is why we do it right here. Because we have outstanding people in the world like Coach Duane Hagstrom that are influencing the next generation, helping develop the next great coaching legends out here. And that's what it is. That's what it's about. And I challenge everybody that's watching this video to go out and do something positive in your community, starting at home. Starting at home, do something at home and in your community to make this world better. And we will continue to see the young people develop and grow because of what we choose to do to help them develop into the adults that they're destined to be, the great adults that they're destined to be. So, Coach Hagstrom, thank you, my brother. If you need to get in touch with Coach Hagstrom, what's the best way to get in touch with you, Coach?
I mean, you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, email, Duane Hag at Gmail. But I appreciate you having me on here, man. I love you, buddy. Like,
hey,
right here.
Hey, brother, we go way back, man. Way back as young men trying to find our way in this world. And it's an honor, my brother, to have you on tonight. So anybody that wants to get in touch with Coach, you know how to find him on Facebook, Twitter, the whole nine. If you contact us, the Student Athlete Achievement Program, Youth Education and Sports, we will definitely put you in touch with Coach. And hey, if you do not have your materials, the Student Athlete Playbook, Success in the Classroom, Sports and Life, please visit locally here in Metro Atlanta, Madu Bookstore inside of Greenbrier Mall, Nubian Books out in Southlake, out at Morrow, where I went to high school. So shout out to Morrow. And you can also go to Amazon and pick up your materials. I am Barry Brown, Youth Education and Sports. That's the organization. And you've just finished watching the Student Athlete Playbook video conversation featuring none other than the Hall of Fame weightlifting coach out of the state of Florida, Duane Hagstrom. Y'all have a good night, and we'll see you soon. One love.